Well, we are just a few days away now from the long-awaited PlayStation Showcase. This is pretty much the longest that Sony has ever went without doing a proper showcase, and because of that, expectations are sky high, understandably so. People are expecting some major announcements at PlayStation Showcase, and they're expecting significant updates on games that have already been announced. When you consider the fact that Sony has more studios than ever before, they have more games in development than ever before, and you combine that with the fact that, as I said, this is the longest they've ever went without doing a show, yeah, I think it's safe to say this is going to be one to remember. So what I wanted to do is go over my top 10 announcements that I hope to see at the PlayStation Showcase. Now, something I want to say before getting into this top 10 list is that keep in mind, this is not a predictions list. This is not me saying these are my most realistic predictions of what I expect to be at the showcase versus what I don't expect to be at the showcase. But what I will say is that I think a lot of the things I have listed here are extremely plausible. I do think, however, that it is pretty unrealistic that every single thing I put on the list here will make its way into the show. I mean, I would be quite shocked if it did. That would be like the greatest show I've ever seen if that happens. But with that being said, I want to dive into this top 10. So if you enjoy the video, be sure to leave it a like and give me your list down below. Give me your top 10 announcements that you hope to see at the showcase, and maybe you can compare it to my list here. So starting with number 10, Spider-Man 2 gameplay. Now, I know it seems strange to be putting Spider-Man at number 10, but the reason why I'm choosing to do this, it's not because I'm not excited for it. I'm incredibly excited for Spider-Man 2. It's simply that I feel like this is the number one thing that is guaranteed to be at the showcase. You consider the fact that Spider-Man 2 was officially announced in September of 2021 at the last PlayStation Showcase, and we've only received a single trailer, which was the announcement trailer, and nothing else since then. I think it's safe to say that Spider-Man 2 will be showing up in a very big way during this showcase. I'm hoping that we get to see a good chunk of gameplay. I'm not expecting like 20 minutes of raw gameplay, nothing like that, but maybe a 5-minute, 6-minute, maybe even 8-minute gameplay demonstration, something along those lines. You have to imagine that by this point, Insomniac Games, they've been working really hard on Spider-Man 2, and they potentially have some surprises up their sleeves regarding Spider-Man 2, because I've been thinking to myself, why haven't they shown anything on this game since it was announced? Not a single second of gameplay. I think it's because they have something special here, and when they finally reveal it, it's going to be something that really kind of blows people away and becomes a major talking point for PlayStation, certainly the PS5. It is a PS5 exclusive, but in general, I think that it has the potential to really kind of shake things up. But the reason why I have it at number 10 on my list, as I said, is because I fully expect it to be there. And it, I don't feel like I really have to say, I hope we see Spider-Man 2, because, to me, it's clear it's going to be there, but I'm still very much excited for it. I truthfully felt like I could not make this list without putting Spider-Man 2 somewhere on it. So yeah, that's my number 10. Moving on to number 9 though, I hope to see a new ASTROBOT game from Team Asobi. I feel like it's been quite some time since we've heard anything from Team Asobi. The last game that they put out was Astro's Playroom, and it's a pack-in game that comes with every PS5. And people were quite surprised, honestly, with just how good this free pack-in game ended up being. And even I can say I was quite surprised. It's a must-play game on PS5 in my opinion, so if you are somebody who's going to eventually pick up a PS5, make sure you give Astro's Playroom a try. But it's worth pointing out that Team Asobi did confirm quite some time ago that they've moved on to their next project, which is a AAA title, and they didn't explicitly confirm that it's another ASTROBOT game, but it's more than likely that's exactly what it's going to be. It's also worth pointing out that in the PlayStation blog post announcing the showcase, they confirmed that we're not just going to see PS5 games, we're going to see PSVR 2 games as well. I think there's a really good chance that we will get a new AAA ASTROBOT game announced, and it's going to be playable on both PS5 and PSVR 2, and that would be a very cool announcement, something that I do think is pretty likely. So yeah, hopefully that's what happens. Moving on to number 8 though, this is kind of a 2-for-1. I hope to see the new AAA IPs announced from both Haven and FIREWALK Studios. However, I do understand how that maybe seems a little bit unrealistic, since, you know, not only is that 2 new AAA IPs, but that's from 2 relatively new studios. But what's particularly interesting about these 2 studios is that initially Sony partnered with them. Haven Studios was founded by Jade Raymond, and it's worth noting that Mark Cerny is actually working on this game with Haven. And FIREWALK Studio was also another studio that had a partnership announced with PlayStation quite some time ago. And the thing that both of these studios have in common is they were acquired by Sony. So they are officially first party, but we have not seen anything from them. All we know is that whatever these 2 studios are working on impressed Sony enough to make them want to buy them before they even released a game. So yeah, I think that we're going to see at least one of these studios show up at the showcase. Could be Haven, could be FIREWALK, but I think it would be great to see both of these games. These 2 games are going to be very different from one another. FIREWALK sounds like it's potentially going to be a sci-fi first-person shooter, to whereas Haven's game sounds like it's going to be something similar to Dreams, but in a more AAA type of way, where you'll be able to kind of create your own content, but it'll be like AAA game content. That's kind of the way they described it. This is why I'm kind of eager to see what this game is, because it sounds certainly interesting, right? So hopefully we see both Haven and FIREWALK's new IPs. So that's my number 8. Moving on to number 7, I want to see one of FIRESPRITE'S new games. Now, FIRESPRITE is a big studio underneath Sony, one of their newer studio acquisitions. It's been heavily rumored that they are working on a Twisted Metal game, and I will say that I fully expect Twisted Metal to be announced at the showcase, and that could be the FIRESPRITE game we end up seeing. But it's also interesting to note that they are working on a new horror game as well. It's called Project Heartbreak, if I'm not mistaken, and there's very, very little known about this game, other than we know it's been in development for a little while now. So there is a chance that if FIRESPRITE does show up at the showcase, we could get multiple announcements from them, but I'm hoping we just see at least something from FIRESPRITE, and I think that something we're going to see is likely to be Twisted Metal. But yeah, I think that it's going to be fascinating to watch Twisted Metal come back. It's going to be a live service title, and I feel like if they do it right, people will end up feeling pretty excited for it. So that's my number 7. Moving on to number 6, I want to see Bluepoint's next game. The last title that Bluepoint Games launched was Demon's Souls Remake at the launch of the PS5, so it's been quite some time since we've heard anything about Bluepoint. In between that time, we know that Bluepoint Games was officially acquired by Sony, and when they talked about their next project, they said that they're working on original content, and a lot of people were unsure how to take that. Are they saying that it's going to be a brand new IP, or are they saying that they're working on an established franchise and they're making a new game in that franchise? I've seen some speculation that people think maybe Bluepoint is going to make another Uncharted. Obviously, we've had all the speculation about them working on something related to Bloodborne, possibly a Bloodborne remake, but it's worth noting they did confirm that their next game is not a remake or a remaster. So keep that in mind. Whenever we see Bluepoint's next title, it's going to be something original. I don't know that it's going to be a new IP, but it's not going to be a remake. And so that's certainly a departure from Bluepoint, and it gets me very interested and potentially very excited to see what they end up doing next. I absolutely love Bluepoint. I loved Demon Souls. I think that this is a very talented studio, and it's going to be fun to see them do some original content. Moving on to number 5, I specifically hope to see some Death Stranding 2 gameplay. We did get the official reveal for Death Stranding 2 at the Game Awards last year, and it looks crazy, right? Death Stranding 1 was a crazy game. I know not everybody enjoyed it. Certainly not everybody loved it. The gameplay was pretty divisive. But the reason why I'm saying I specifically want to see gameplay from Death Stranding 2 is because I have a sneaking suspicion that the gameplay for Death Stranding 2 is going to be significantly different from the gameplay of the first game. I just can't help but think this because I was listening to one of Hideo Kojima's podcasts a while ago, shortly after the reveal of Death Stranding 2. He talked a little bit about the gameplay and what to expect, and he pretty much confirmed that it's going to be much more similar to his previous games. And so naturally, a lot of people are immediately going to think Metal Gear Solid, you know, stealth, action, tactical gameplay. Again, we haven't seen it. He hasn't really talked about it since then, but ever since I heard him say that, I became much more interested in seeing what this game is going to offer gameplay-wise. So I am hoping that we see more Death Stranding 2, and I am also hoping that the gameplay we see is quite surprising. I think that would be a really cool reveal at the PlayStation Showcase. Moving on to number 4, this is also, again, a kind of 2-for-1. I would like to see either Sony Ben's new AAA IP revealed or Sony Santa Monica's new IP revealed. Both of these games obviously are AAA. These are two big new IPs that are in development at PlayStation Studios, and they have both been confirmed, but we have no idea what these games are, what they look like. Do I think both of these games will show up? No, I simply think that's asking too much. Could they? Of course, anything is possible, but I'm hoping at least one of them shows up. Sony Ben's last game was Days Gone, and I know a lot of people really want to see Days Gone 2, and that's unfortunate because they're not working on Days Gone 2, they're working on something brand new, and that has been officially confirmed. And I think the sooner we see what this new game is, the sooner people maybe will be like, oh, okay, well, I wanted Days Gone 2, but this new game looks amazing as well. So that's why I'm leaning more towards seeing Sony Ben's new game. Also, because it's been a while, right? Like, Days Gone came out in 2019, whereas if we look at Sony Santa Monica, they just shipped God of War Ragnarok last November. So, you know, the idea that right after shipping God of War Ragnarok, they're going to be ready to just reveal a new IP, they certainly could. This is the game that Cory Barlog is apparently heading right now, so they could be ready to show something off. It's worth noting that Herman Holst did pay a visit to Santa Monica Studios, and he tweeted about it, saying he's feeling very inspired by what he saw. So that could be a direct tease. Who knows? Maybe, just maybe, we could see both of these games revealed. But yeah, I'm hoping we see at least one of them, because I have a feeling it's going to look really, really good, regardless of whether it's Sony Ben or Santa Monica. Moving on to number 3, Wolverine. Now, I don't know if this is a realistic expectation, but again, this is what I'm hoping for. I know we're going to see Spider-Man 2. I'm really hoping that we see a little bit more Wolverine as well. I expect to see gameplay of Spider-Man 2. I think getting just some type of trailer for Wolverine would be just as awesome. Maybe not necessarily showing any gameplay, could be a short trailer, but just to kind of give fans an idea of what to expect with this Wolverine game. Again, this was announced at the last PlayStation Showcase in September of 2021, and it was a CG teaser trailer, and you could only really learn so much about the game in a trailer like that, and I think fans are very eager to learn more about this game. I mean, and for me, this was the last major game reveal from PlayStation that like really made me kind of jump out of my seat, you know, just not expecting it, and just being so insanely hyped that, and kind of like it was kind of an unbelievable announcement, right? Like Insomniac is already doing insane work with the Spider-Man games, and then to hear that they're also going to work on Wolverine, I mean, it was quite unbelievable. So I don't necessarily know that I'm expecting it to show up at the showcase, but I'm certainly going to be hopeful that it does. Moving on to my number 2, The Last of Us multiplayer. Anybody who's been following my channel for some time, you know that I have not stopped talking about this game. The day that I learned that Naughty Dog was putting all of their effort into realizing a full AAA dedicated multiplayer experience set in the Last of Us universe, you know that I have just been, I've been championing this game. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it looks like. I'm in the same boat as everybody else, but I have a ton of confidence in Naughty Dog delivering something very awesome with this multiplayer experience. I fully expect this game to be at the showcase, but it being number 2 on my list here should give you an idea of just how interested I am in this game and how excited I am to finally see it revealed. It's been a long time coming. It's just so fascinating to me. It really is, to see a studio of Naughty Dog's caliber. They are not known for dedicated multiplayer games. They've made some great multiplayer experiences in both The Last of Us and Uncharted universes, but they were always kind of like tacked on experiences. So to see them come out and put their best foot forward for a full-blown multiplayer experience, I'm very excited. I love the universe, the Last of Us universe. I think it's a perfect universe to have a multiplayer game. It almost sounds like it's going to be a kind of MMO type game, or an MMO light of some kind. So yeah, absolutely cannot wait to see this revealed, and I fully anticipate it will be at the showcase. But with that being said, we're going to move on to my number 1, and I know that for some people this number 1 may sound a bit underwhelming because it is a remake, but again, if you know me, you already knew that this was going to be number 1. Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake, okay? This is apparently the game that Konami is choosing to remake. The Metal Gear Solid series is my favorite of all time. MGS3 is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, it's literally like, it's one of the most mind-blowing games I've ever played. So the idea that this is finally going to get the proper remake treatment, and on top of that, we are going to potentially see the return of Metal Gear Solid after many, many years of it just kind of being, dormant. It's incredibly exciting. That is easily my number 1. It's insane to think that we're going to see this revealed at the PlayStation Showcase. It's not officially confirmed, but there are more than enough rumors to point in that direction. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think it's safe to say that this game is going to show up, and that is by far like my number 1 thing that I hope to see at the showcase. And I also want to add to that, it's not just about seeing MGS3 Remake. I hope that we can get a bit of an update from Konami, just like we did with the Silent Hill series. Like, what are you guys planning on doing with the Metal Gear Solid franchise in general? Obviously, we are expecting Kojima not to be involved. I want to point it out that it's seeming likely that we're going to see both Kojima Productions with Death Stranding 2 and Konami with Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake at this showcase. I'm not saying that means Kojima is going to end up being involved in some way, but I just can't help but kind of notice that that seems to be the direction we're headed in. But either way, I want to know more about Metal Gear Solid and what Konami's plans are, and I think learning about that in any capacity at the PlayStation Showcase would be pretty much a dream come true for me. So there you go. Those are my top 10 announcements I hope to see at the PlayStation Showcase. I want to reiterate, I am not expecting to see everything I just listed here. I know that this list is maybe not that realistic. I think that for everything I listed, there is a chance. I don't think I put anything on this list that's just like, no way, no chance, or like I'm just, my head's in the clouds. I don't think it's anything like that. But I do think to expect all 10 of these announcements to happen in one showing is asking too much. But if even half of these things show up, then I'm going to be very, very, very happy. So there you go. Again, leave your own personal top 10 list in the comments below. I'll be curious to see what you guys are hoping to see. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.